It's the NBA Cup, a dying thing for fans and a great thing to me personally. And we are going to talk about the NBA Cup, which tips off tonight. Pacers Hawks in Indy. Brad Rowland from Locked On Hawks, Tony East from Locked On Pacers. We're crossing it over today. Let's go.
You are Locked On NBA Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. Welcome to Locked On Pacers and Locked On Hawks, because we're crossing it over today because the NBA Cup is here already. Somehow the Pacers home opener was 8 days ago, and now the Cup has already started. I think that's a little too early, and that's the only bad thing I'm going to say about the Cup today. That's not true. I have one other thing. I love the NBA Cup. I know that it's not the most popular fan event ever, and it starts tonight. Pacers Hawks in the same group in the East. Two teams that have made it to Vegas before. They know what it takes. They're ready for it all. Brad Rowland from Locked On Hawks. Hello. Are you excited? Do you like the Cup too? Am I alone on this? How are you feeling going into Friday?
No, this is a Cup-friendly space between the two of us, which is nice. Because look, there are dozens of us, but only dozens of us, I think, at this point in time. No, I understand what the Cup is and what it isn't. I know that people are not all in, but I genuinely do enjoy it. I think it's a nice wrinkle. I also agree with what you already said, is that it feels very early for this to be happening. But here we are with some Halloween night basketball, and it also counts for like 1.2 versus a normal game.
People were right last year. Like, I saw this take floating around during the finals and like during the playoffs of like, does anyone remember that Thunder Bucks game? And I was like, no, not really. But I think
I do. I was there.
Kind of the point. You were there. I'm jealous. I went the first year and the Pacers made the finals. The thing is, that's kind of the point, is like, it's supposed to feel like a separate event, but still a big competition. Now, it feels way lesser, like maybe more lesser than Adam Silver would have hoped it felt when he installed this thing. But it's not supposed to be like you get to the end of the season, it's like, oh my God, the Cup champ Bucks, here they come to the playoffs. Like, it's supposed to feel like a regular season elevating event. And I think it does that mostly because, one, it gives me like a day, or I'm sure you do this too, or an hour. I'm like, I'm going to run through every ridiculous point differential permutation for who could still win their groups, during the thing. And like, the games mean more. The courts are ugly, but they're like different and unique. Like, it's just an experience and a different thing in a way that, even though I get that people don't think actually winning it has any merit, I think the league was probably pretty mad at the Bucks last year for being so stoic after it was over. It's still cool and fun and like an actual, like you said, 1.2 or whatever X of a regular game on Halloween.
Yeah, I think that also people do care about it around the league. Not everybody. I'm not going to act like every player and coach is like super duper all in. But if you watch the game, like, the intensity level is better in the Cup games.
Yes.
I think players want to win. They always want to win, but like, there's a little bit extra of something there. And you already mentioned it, but the point differential stuff, like, it's just it's kind of a sicko event. Like, I'm not sure the league wants it to only be a sicko event. Maybe the Amazon-ness of this year's tournament will be different. They're kind of taking it on as like they're the main carrier of the NBA Cup now. Maybe they'll push it more and whatever. But I think that currently it's a sicko event, and you and I are both sickos, and like, there's a lot of interesting things going on. And yeah, also though, on the flip side, if the team you cover and that you care about loses the first two games, it's like, okay, I'm just done with this, and it happens really fast. So I get that too. So a lot going on here, but I think the courts are not always popular either. But hey, it's a fun little thing in October, November.
The Pacers 2 years ago obviously were awesome. They won every East game they played and made the finals. And then last year they were the other team you described. They sucked. They lost every game. They were out of it after 2 games, but they were granted a cupcake schedule because they went 0-4, and that like helped them relaunch their season in December. I don't remember how the Hawks did in the first year, but like, you saw it, they made it to Vegas. It's like a real, like, when you're there as if you're not there, you don't care. Like, you don't even think about it. If you're there as a team, it's like a real thing. Like, it feels glitzy and glamoury because it's so big out there.
Yeah, they try to make it that, and like, the in-arena experience is not fantastic in Vegas compared to what they would want it to be. Like, it's so funny. I cover some college stuff, and like, going to the actual Final Four in college basketball is like a scene. You know what I mean? Like, that place is going crazy. 4 fan bases, and the NBA Cup fan. Like, the first year was even worse. It was like a 5:00 game on like a Friday or something, and there wasn't a soul in the building, and it was like, what is going on here? And I was excited about it, but in the meantime, like, the in-person experience, by the way, they're changing that next year. It's going to be back to solo and all that stuff. So we'll see if this goes anywhere, but the intensity level is good. There is buzz when you're there. You talk to players when we were there. I'm sure you did the same thing the year before. Like guys were were jacked up to play in that arena. And look, if nothing else, it's a standalone for the team that you're watching and covering because nothing else is happening that day or any of these days. Like on the big ones, once you get to the quarterfinals, semifinals, you're in standalone spots. And for teams like the Pacers and Hawks, not always a given. Like recently for the Pacers, I know they played a lot of big games last season in particular, but like if you zoom out over like a decade, not a ton of like standalone national ABC, NBC games for these franchises. So like getting some shine is helpful.
Yeah, that was big for the Pacers, and we're like totally off topic for Pacers Hawks, but for them it was, for most of their players, it was like the biggest NBA game they'd ever played when they were like playing in Vegas and on national TV. Like the Pacers had one national TV game that first year, and then they got added 2 more because they went to Vegas. Like I don't know how much that actually gave them real big game experience, but like it really mattered for them. And their Vegas experience was different than the Hawks because the Lakers made it last year or that year, and that is the closest city to Vegas in the NBA. I think. Yes. I have to double check a Phoenix geography lesson there. So those fans could actually make it. And so the first game, which was like you said, Pacers Bucks at 5. Yeah, it was not a good crowd experience, right? But once the Lakers were playing, it felt normal. But last year there was no LA anything, so it was just like it's cool and people go, but it's not like it's either the diehard fans or they don't care about either team, and that's something that's kind of odd about it.
Yep, and they're trying to address that now for the future. So, long story long, I guess it's like I have juice for it, and I think maybe eventually they might grow it. If they don't grow it to something bigger than it has been recently, like at some point they might give up on it. Like if for 5 more years from now, and there's like no growth in the NBA Cup, they may not care about it anymore and pull the plug. But like, it's still early. I think there was some unrealistic expectations of like what it was going to be immediately when they just kind of let's just be honest, Tony. This came out of nothing. They just created it out of nothing. There was the soccer comparisons, all those things, but like there's no history of the NBA Cup. Like they kind of made the Lakers hang a banner the first year against their will almost. Like I get the league's pushing it, but for me, it's just fun. And if it gets to be serious, that'd be awesome because you and I like basketball and important basketball and basketball that's played at a high level.
If you somehow have no idea on the format, you play 4 group stage games against the teams in your group. The winner of the 3 groups in each conference, plus the best second place finisher, whether that's by record or point differential, it's usually both, become the 4 teams that make the quarterfinals. Those games are hosted in site, and then the semifinals and finals this year will be in Vegas. I have one complaint about the Cup, Brad. I've had this complaint since they started it. I think you and I have talked about this. If only there were already groups of 5 that the NBA had that they could use for this, that were like regional rivalries already. Why? I know why. They don't use divisions because they want it to be even, because there's a cash prize and scheduling involved, and they don't want it to be really easy for some teams or easier for some team to make the money. Like, I get that, but wouldn't it help financially to have better regional rivalries? Why are the groups, not just the divisions? I hate it. It's my least favorite thing about this event that I like.
I was unaware of this take that you have, but I think you're on the right track. Like, I get maybe why they don't want to do it, because they want it to be different. And like, you already play your division 4 times. Like, I kind of get maybe why they wouldn't want to do it, but the fact that it's just like totally thrown together, it would make more sense to me if they just did this. Even if they wanted to do new groups for the NBA Cup from the beginning, just leave them the same every year. Maybe there would be some sort of buildup.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like right now, I get why you're right. They want to make it even, but it's like this pot system, and there's win-loss. It's very, even for sickos like us, like I can't explain to you right now how they draw the groups. I know it's designed to be even. It's like about what you did last year, but also stuff changes, man. Like guys get hurt, players, teams overhaul themselves, and suddenly you're in a group that is still unbalanced anyway. So while that's the goal and it does make sense, some logic would be useful to me. I mean, why does it have to be East and West?
Yeah, that's a great point too.
Like if you're not going to use divisions, you don't need to have it be East and West. Like I understand the travel's a little bit easier, but like not that much easier. Like I mean, it's one of those things where, yeah, I'm sure Atlanta doesn't want to go to Portland randomly on a one-off, and that's probably why that's like that. But you could still build the schedule. They still have to build the schedule around it anyway. You could just build West Coast trips in when you're going to the West Coast. Like, there's ways to do it where like it's not so both random and also not exciting. Like, if it was random and also teams you didn't play all the time, it might be more fun. Like if Hawks are in Hawks, Pacers, Blazers, Suns, whatever would be more interesting than like random assortment of Eastern Conference teams. So I'm with you, I think.
I like that. Let these fans see these teams even once every 5 years, a little bit more often. I'm sure there's some guy, there's no chance anyone who works in the league office who makes the schedule listens to Locked On Pacers or Locked On Hawks, but they just heard you say, oh, easy to change the schedule. They're like, whoa, hold on.
I know it's not easy, but listen, you're still building the schedule out for this anyway. Like, this is an easy, nothing about schedule is easy. That's the biggest, That's definitely important to say. But why is it the way that, I mean, so last year the Hawks and the Cavs were in the same group, and they played a regular game and a cup game on either side of Thanksgiving. Wednesday, they played a game that didn't count for the cup. Then there was Thanksgiving, and then they played on Black Friday in a cup game. Like, what? Like, and also, they both traveled on Thanksgiving. It was city to city. They didn't stay in the same place. They went from Cleveland to Atlanta, or vice versa. I can't remember which one it was, but it was like, okay, so that schedule makes sense to you? Like, that travel schedule makes sense to somebody on Thanksgiving Day? They're like, you know what? Both teams are going to change cities together in one line on a holiday and play. And by the way, this game matters more than the other one. That makes sense. I'm sure.
I'm sure Pacers and Hawks fans are riveted by our complaints and praises of the NBA Cup. Let's talk about the teams that are playing in this spooky Friday night game, Brad, coming up right here on both Locked On Pacers and Locked On Hawks. But first, I got to tell you about Robinhood. Your ambition has met its match with Robinhood. You play for the win, not just on game day, every single day, locking in on every opening, beating your PR, beating it again to channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money, trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto, all right on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood's Legends advanced tools, or you can take advantage of the new Robinhood Strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself, expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. Let's also quickly talk about DoorDash. The NBA season is heating up. The cup is here, and DoorDash has found the perfect way to keep fans in their bag all season long. Whether you're watching the highlights or fantasy team or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes every game night even better. They're the official on-demand delivery platform of the NBA. They're celebrating with something called the bag drop. Every time a player scores 50 or more points in an NBA game, which is happening a ton all of a sudden, DoorDash drops 50% off your order with Dash Pass the next day. You're automatically entered for a chance to win the ultimate fan bag. It's got player-inspired drip, exclusive gear, stuff you want. It's not just food. You can get way more on DoorDash now. Headphones, ice, socks, snacks, drinks, whatever. They have you covered for the late-night highlights and watch parties. So next time someone goes off for 50, use that promo code NBA50 the next day. You'll get 50% off on DoorDash with Dash Pass, plus your shot at the bag drop. Dash Pass members only, 50% off up to $10 the day after a 50-point game with the promo code. Terms apply. No purchase necessary. Ends April 13th. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Visit DoorDashinYourBag.com for full details. DoorDash in your bag all season long. Back here on Locked On Pacers and Locked On Hawks. Thanks for making either of us your first listen today and every single day. Your second listen should be the other show every day, but today it should be Locked On Warriors, who played the Bucks without Giannis in Milwaukee. Fun time. Seeing the Bucks actually scrap and fight in that game. Maybe Locked On Bucks could be your second listen. Brad, let's talk about these two teams. Their first meeting of the season. They have both had cup success before, but the game is secondary right now because the biggest news around the Atlanta Hawks is their health. Trae Young goes down in Brooklyn, knee-to-knee contact, tried to stay in the game, could not. What is the latest on him? He's already listed out. What is even going on with this?
Yeah, so full transparency, we're recording this late Thursday evening into Friday morning, right? And there's been no update beyond the injury report, which was the same as what happened in the middle of the game. They announced right knee sprain during the game. That's about as generic as possible. Right knee sprain does not actually mean right knee sprain, as you well know, Tony. Yes. That's a stand-in for whatever. That's basically just any kind of right knee injury. We all knew that was going to be the case anyway. I'm anticipating at some point on Friday we'll get a more formal update with a actual injury and maybe a timeline of some kind. But as we're recording this, we don't know, except for the fact that he's not playing on Friday. And it's the only injury the Hawks have. which is not like the Pacers. I'm sure we'll get to that in a second. But it's the singular player the Hawks, as Pacers fans would understand with Haliburton and all those things. I would argue that the Pacers have a lot more options when they are healthy, which they are not, to replicate something of what Haliburton does. The Hawks have no one like Trae Young on their roster. Like I would argue he's the only point guard on the roster. Like the only point guard on the entire team is Trae Young. Now, granted, they have guys who can play point guard. Dyson Daniels, Nick Alexander-Walker, Keaton Wallace, even Luke Kennard a little bit can play some offensive point guard. But Trae Young he can. Defensively, he can't really do it. But anyway, Tony disagrees. It's fine. I like Luke Kennard. Regardless, though, Trae Young is like, yeah, they have one injury, but he's the entire offensive infrastructure, basically. Like for years and years and years now, the Hawks are just like fall off a cliff when Trae sits on the bench offensively. Now they're better defensively without Trae Young. I'm sure we'll get into that. But offensively, he's like the guy they can't afford to be without. And hey, he's not going to be there, at least on Friday.
Fun stuff. The Pacers are also very banged up. That's not why they're losing. They're losing for lots of reasons. But I will say this. They played the Wolves on Sunday. Anthony Edwards gets hurt, and they still lost. They played the Mavs on Wednesday. Anthony Davis gets hurt, and they still lost. So if you're the Hawks, this is not a death sentence at all.
I had multiple Pacers fans immediately reply. I posted the Pacers injury report and the Hawks injury report today as well. Multiple Pacers fans who follow me hey, thank you for following me. But they were immediately like, well, it doesn't matter anyway because the Pacers lose to the teams without their best player anyway. So that's apparently just in the ether now. Maybe because of you, Tony. Maybe you would tell everybody this.
It is very funny. Like, so 2 years ago, the Pacers had this tied for the most losses in the league against teams that finished with 33% win percent or worse. Like they lost to Brooklyn and Charlotte and everybody, like every time. And they would always beat really good teams. And so the joke in like the Pacers fan space was like, they'd play like this game, like Trae Young's out or like Paolo Banchero's out and all these Pacers fans like, dang it. Like that's actually worse.
Yeah.
Given how this team's psyche has kind of been. They're just worse in these games. They this year's different. They unlike the Hawks, who besides stronger, I laughed at their injury report because the Hawks were the first team to announce guys is out for G League reasons that I'd seen all season because they're that healthy. They can actually send Duricic and Dante. Did I say that right? Whatever. To the G. The Pacers have 6 of their top 8 from last year are not going to play in this game. One of them is because they're on the Bucks. The other 5 are because they are hurt. And they are also maybe down Johnny Furphy. He's questionable. Maybe down Talon Peter, who Hawks fans have never heard of, but is actually like a decent player. And some other guys, like they're really banged up. Like their 10-man rotation they used in Dallas was the only 10 guys they had already. So obviously Haliburton's the face of it. They're playing different. They look different, but they are just like any points, anything that they can do to find success is a struggle right now. They can't make shots at all. So yes, Trae is out. I think that's the big health story coming into the game, but I think both these teams are going to be like, hey, can we find any solutions in our current reality to actually win this game?
Yeah, I was trying to explain to people today that after I posted the injury report about the Pacers, even it was like they still have Siakam. He's really good. They have guys who can play, but this is not the Pacers roster wise. And like you got to be able to be prepared to play through some injuries in the NBA. That's not breaking news to anybody listening to this podcast, but there is a breaking point when you just mentioned 6 of the top 8 guys or whatever the number is. Like that's a different situation. Even the chances of Trae Young playing all 82 games were very, very low coming into the year. Now, we don't know how long he's going to be out as of this recording, but like him missing a game is like they got to be prepared to do that, right? You can't prepare to be without 3/4 of rotation. Like you could kind of just try to plug the holes and have a good coach, and the Pacers do. But even scouting the Pacers, I'd imagine would be hard for the Hawks right now. Like there's some tape, like this same roster, or at least close to it, played in the game on Wednesday in Dallas. I think everyone that was out in that game, right? I think you can correct me. Maybe not Furphy and Peter, to your point.
The Wednesday game was the Pacers' first game this season. They played start to finish without somebody getting hurt mid-game.
Hey, success. We're getting better.
So same team.
But yeah, I mean, there's the stuff that the Hawks have done really poorly. Like same thing. Like the Hawks fans were getting annoyed because they had their starting front court in its entirety missed a game in the first week of the season. And it was like, here we go again. But now it's only one guy. But The Hawks have not played particularly well through 5 games, even though they've been much healthier than the Pacers. And you know this, like when teams have expectations for the first time in a while, like real expectations, and then they don't meet them right out of the gate, the panic level goes through the ceiling. Like I'm sure Pacers fans, you can correct me, are not thrilled right now, but it's more explainable and easier to explain when you just made the finals and like everybody's hurt. It's not like a hard thing to understand what's going on to some degree. Even if there's more nuance than that, I'm sure there is, but it's like an easier explanation. When you're healthy and losing early in the year with expectations, it's like really hard to explain to people. I was joking with people, and you know me a little bit, Tony. I was before the Brooklyn game on Wednesday with the Hawks. I was like openly saying on the show, like, I really hope the Hawks win just from my online experience. and that's something that I would basically never say on my show. Like, I cover the team very objectively. And I was kind of just be like, guys, I don't want them to lose to the Nets, because if they lose to the Nets, I'm going to have a bad day on Thursday. And that was true. I meant that. So, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, the Pacers went through that last year because they made the conference finals, and then they came out and everybody's like, okay, like they're a winner now. And then they stunk, right? Yeah. They were 10-15 and they were losing to Brooklyn and Chicago and getting boat raced in some of these games. And it was like, oh my, like I did a whole show about how rare it is for a team that is trying to win every game to not even be able to win a third of their games. Like it is unheard of. Usually if you're that bad, you're young or intentionally bad. And then they obviously turned it around and made the finals. But like the feeling then was like, oh my God, what is happening? This is a disaster. The feeling right now is just like, yeah, this sucks, but I'm getting all the tank gifts. And like, here's a DeBonsa highlight reel. Here's Cam Boozer. It's like, that's what I thought, you know, the early losses would feel like for this team. Now, the fact that 3 of their 4 losses are crunch time losses, I think has hurt fans a little bit. Like they can win and they just haven't. They can beat the Hawks. That's possible. It's not going to be easy. So it's just been a weird experience of fan emotions, really, for both of these teams. It's really funny. I'm very disappointed, Brad, in the Hawks, because I was one of the few who picked them third because I did not believe in the Orlando Magic. I feel good about that. I do not feel good about my current and preseason belief in the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah, I feel fine about the Hawks, and I gave a very long explanation of why. Now, granted, that's pre-Trae Young injury. If Trae's out for a long time, again, caveats apply.
Yeah, throw that away.
I was still feeling fine a couple days ago, even if Hawks fans were not. But and by the way, Hawks fans really like you, Tony, and I'm not kidding about that. Like all the squad shows, of which I can usually never make them because there are times I can't make. The comments that I see are generally people are mad at the other hosts. And then literally by name, I think you're the only person that I've ever seen. Like basically, it's like everybody thinks comma except Tony East. Hawks fans are in on Tony East. I'm just saying. But no, yes. it's a challenging experience when you're supposed to win and you're not. And also, I'm sure we'll get into this, but the Pacers, I was not prepared to look at the Pacers cleaning the glass page and see them number 28 in offense. It's like it's just an odd experience that I mean, just because I've watched them, but also against the Hawks in particular over the last 2 years, the Pacers have scored at will. I mean, I know you know this, but 2 years ago they literally had a 140 offensive rating in the 4 games. Like literally combined 4 games, they had a 140 offensive rating against the Hawks in the season series. Last year it was like 122 or whatever it was. It wasn't quite as crazy, but still, like that team playing this Hawks team, which also is having defensive issues, it's very odd that the Pacers like can't score, even if it makes total sense why they have no guards. So like you kind of need guards to score points, Tony. But it's just crazy. We're in an odd place.
I kind of want to reminisce on that game for just a second before we talk about tonight's game in actual detail. Coming up right here on Locked On Pacers and Locked On Hawks. Before that, though, I'm going to tell you guys about the great people over at FanDuel. The NBA is back and rolling, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel. They're the official sports betting partner of the NBA, and even if you missed the start of the game or you just want to ride the hot hand, however you want to get involved, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks, everything. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout, the live lines, everything. Keeps every game more exciting, especially when your team is making that late push, which the Pacers have done often this year. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins on FanDuel. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Back here on Locked On Pacers and Locked On Hawks. Again, thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day or second listen. I would have said Locked On Hawks on my own show, Brad, ironically, to direct people to the Trae Young injury news. Is there any other big injuries? Giannis got hurt. Locked On Bucks, I guess. I already mentioned that earlier. Nothing else crazy in the NBA right now. Weird. It's been like a crazy league year so far. The thing I remember most about that game, that 156-152 or whatever it was game, was a cup game on the Hawks blue court. And I remember at one point in the fourth quarter, it basically felt like an agreement between Rick Carlisle and Snyder. No, that was not Snyder yet, right? Was it? Yes, it was.
No,
yes, it was.
No, it was. It was.
Where they were both just like, screw this, we cannot stop you. And they took their centers off the floor. It was the first Obi Toppin at the 5 moment the Pacers ever had. Jalen Johnson was the 5 for the Hawks, and every possession was points. It was crazy.
The Hawks shot 60% from the field, 48% from 3 in that game, and lost on their home court. And I described that, I think to you and others, I know I did on my show, as basketball on the moon. And part of it was the court, but part of that was just the way the game was played. And crazy. One more stat from that 2 years ago. The Hawks' 3 highest scoring opponent games that season were all the Pacers. They scored 150, 157, and 157 against the Hawks in the same season. And 2 of those games were like 40-point blowouts. Now, granted, one of them was the last game of the year. It didn't matter because it was they weren't trying. But the other 2 games did matter. And last year, the Hawks managed to win 2 out of 3 against the Pacers, and it felt like Christmas after the way the year before went. So
one of the 2 wins I was in Atlanta for, Pascal Siakam just forgot the score of the game.
He sure did. He sure did.
That was very peculiar. Okay, this year, so you mentioned the Pacers offense, which is funny because I predicted in the lead up to the season, without Haliburton, they lost Turner, but without Haliburton, there was a chance, and I would said over 50-50, that the Pacers are a better defensive team than offensive team this year. I thought it was going to be closer to like 13th or 14th defense and 17th on offense, not like, hey, you just can't score at all. And I believe, if I'm correct, you were on Dunked On also talking about the Hawks being, for once, not identified by Trae Young and being an offensive team. How do you feel like are the Hawks actually as threatening so far defensively as you thought? And like, I used the segue of that first Cup game that they played 2 years ago to say, is this actually going to somehow be a defensive Hawks-Pacers matchup?
I think for sure, compared to the previous matchups, not even close. Like, I do believe what I was saying this summer about how the Hawks, they're still probably better offensively than defensively because you have Trae Young, and that's one huge factor. But also, you bring in Porzingis, who's a better offensive player than defensive player as well. But the Hawks do have their best defensive personnel in a handful of years. And last year, they were not embarrassing defensively. They were 19th in defense last year, which isn't good, but it's not like where they were the previous couple years before that, where they were in like the low 20s. But they've had a bad start to the year defensively. A lot of that's been transition, which is usually an issue against Indiana, maybe a little bit less so with the current iteration. But as far as like to center it a little bit on Friday's game, this is obvious, and I don't mean it to be, but when the Hawks take Trae Young out of the mix for injury, they're better defensively by personnel because Trae is not a good defender. Breaking news. But also, they really have no. I said it before. They don't have point guards, so they're not playing small players. Like they're not even. It's not just removing Trae Young. It's that you're suddenly playing Nickeil Alexander-Walker at point guard or Dyson Daniels at point guard, and those guys are like elite shooting guard defenders who are now playing point guard, and they're 6'6", 6'7". Like they're suddenly big. You take Trae Young off the court, they're suddenly like the Hawks are big, which sounds. It's just odd that they would be. They've been small for like most of the last several seasons, but they're not anymore. So I think in particular Friday. Yeah, I mean, if there was ever going to be a defensive matchup between these two teams, it's a Trae Young-less, Andrew Nembhard-less, Haliburton-less game on a Friday. Like, yeah, I think there's actually a chance this game is like kind of a slugfest. Strange,
weird, very weird. Yeah, the Pacers can't like they are 29th in the league. Well, maybe now there were games tonight. Entering Thursday, they were 29th in the league in just field goal percentage. Like they just can't make anything. And I did a segment on that before they played the Mavs and then shot 34% in that game, right? Like they cannot make anything. And credit to these players. Their nominal point guards are Quentin Jackson and Ray J. Dennis. Those are two-way contract players. they have done like pretty well for what you'd expect of a two-way contract point guard. They have not had to face Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Dyson Daniels as their backcourt in a game, which is interesting because I've been saying recently, I didn't say this until after Wednesday, I think one of Jackson or Dennis should probably start now for the Pacers. They've figured out that this no point guard thing doesn't really work, which is fine. They had to try it. They've done 4 different starting lineups in 4 games. But maybe you wait one more day. Don't go throwing out Ray J or Q against the Hawks. Wait to try your no point guard thing. Get your best shooters and defenders on the floor and just try it that way one more time. Then if that does not work, they immediately have a back-to-back with Golden State on Saturday. Try it then, because that is a crazy situation to be throwing those guys into.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The ball pressure. I will say the Hawks have – it's great to have Nickeil and Dyson, but their interior defense, especially with the starters, with Jalen Johnson and Porzingis, has been really rough to begin the season, actually. Jalen Johnson's a good defender usually. He's been quite bad, actually, through the first five games of the season defensively. Porzingis is still getting acclimated. That's the kind of way of saying he's not been playing very well defensively. So they've really given up a lot of points in the paint, a lot of like easy buckets around the rim. Perhaps there's some life there for Indiana's offense if they can get there. That's not the easiest thing to do to get there, but that's maybe an avenue. And also I will say, the Hawks have done a great job in the turnover battle. I know that's a Pacer staple as well, taking care of the ball. The Hawks have been great in that area this year. Where they have not been is on the glass. They have been one of the worst rebound teams in the league so far, and they shouldn't be that bad, but they have been so far. So that's an area too where I can see Carlisle saying we're going to crash, and that if they are going to crash, the Hawks have shown no ability through 5 games to stop that.
Yeah, the Pacers are crashing anyway, because you're right. They are a possession team, and the superpower of Tyrese Haliburton, despite everybody thinking it's one thing or the other, is that he can pass 7,000 times in a basketball game, and all of them will be 2 Pacers players. Every single one. He will never, ever turn it over, ever. And so they always would be +6, +5, +8, whatever in turnovers. So even if they don't have the greatest shooting net, they have so many extra chances. Well, guess what? Without Tyrese Haliburton, even if Nembhard is good and they don't have him, or all these guys that play point guard for them are good players, they're not him. They're going to turn it over some. And so there's clearly been a stronger emphasis on the glass for this Pacers team this year, whether that's just racing to it after their own shots or being better on the defensive glass. And like for other things Miles Turner was very good at, rebounding was his worst like traditional center skill by far. So they're hoping that that's how they gain ground in the possession battle. So if they're getting smoked in the guard versus guard play, as we predicted, maybe the Pacers can get some of that back in second chance points or via their front court, because that's where they have been the best. Is Pascal Siakam has just been awesome, right? He's still very good, and he is healthy. He's the best player in this game now. So that is where you could see the Pacers, in theory, get this one back. And this would be their first win. They have a chance at it, but they have not proven that they should be the favorites or anything necessarily.
Yeah, I think our friends at FanDuel had this game pretty close as of Thursday evening into Friday morning without Trae Young. The Hawks, I think, are still like very small favorites given Indiana's roster situation. Yeah. But also, I have one more question I have to ask you because it's just crazy. How are the Pacers allowing 39 free throw attempts per game through 4 games? Like, is that just like a sequencing thing? Is it late game stuff, or is it like what's going on? They're dead last, and anytime you see that very, very bright blue, I had to ask you, like, what's going on with the free throw prevention going in Indiana right now?
The very bright blue, for those who don't know, if you're a nerd and love basketball stats, that's a cleaning the glass reference. If I've ever heard
it certainly was. My apologies for not explaining that better, but yes, it means you're dead last. Yeah, exactly.
I guess that means you're last. So the per game number is not the greatest because they played opening night against OKC double overtime. So SGA double overtime. You know how many free throws that were taken between both teams in that game, Brad? 91.
I did check that, and then I said, oh, they're still 30th in rate. So what's the I mean, it's not as bad as the per game numbers, but it's not just that.
They have a lot. One, they have a lot of just like inexperienced players playing, like a lot in every game, right? Yeah. And like those players fall for shot fakes more, or are out of position by just a half step and have to foul more. That's been a lot of it. But even some of their more experienced defenders are like working their way into the system in a way that has not shown defensive success. Isaiah Jackson, back from injury, he got way better at this his last full season, and then has just completely reverted back to old habits of just like jumping off the ground the second a guy shot fakes, and then he has to foul him, or dumb screen foul. Jay Huff's fouled a lot, even though he's gotten some blocks. A lot of their young guards are fouling a lot. Like they just are. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just because usually fouling is a function of like your defense failing elsewhere. And so you have to foul, or you should foul to stop whatever instead. And that is most of it, is their defense hasn't been good enough and they've had to foul. But also some of it is what I said of just like young players being dumb on defense and making mistakes. They foul. Oh, you didn't ask me this. They just played the Mavs Wednesday. They were down 4 with like 90 seconds to go, and they fouled. And then the Mavs made 2 free throws. Then they hit a 3. They're down 3 with like a minute to go, and they fouled right away. Early shot clock. They were not intentional fouls. They were just stupid plays. Like, it's that. Why? Why are you fouling there? They lost that game by 2. Like it's been weird.
Yeah, and maybe there'll be a lot of fouls in this game because the Hawks have been fouling more than they usually would too, and also they've been aggressive. They'll be probably more aggressive, trying to push tempo, push pace. Like that's something the Hawks are going to probably. I would be shocked if they don't do this without Trae Young. They know they can't score in the half court without Trae Young, just generally speaking, like efficiently. So what does that mean? That means try to score before you're in the half court. That means try to run more. Yeah. And that might sound counterintuitive when you're playing without a point guard, but the Hawks again. Understanding self-scouting, I would say, like don't slow the game down when you have no half-court creators. So might be a lot of fouls, maybe a lot of tempo. I don't know, man. This is actually a game that I am having a lot of trouble trying to project and predict what's going to happen. But it's a Pacers-Hawks game, I guess. Just an odd one.
Well, that's hilarious because I was about to say my only prediction for this game is it's going to be weird. Like something about it is just going to feel weird and strange to everybody. And you know what's going to be the weirdest thing about it, Brad? The game is in Indianapolis, and Brad Rowland will be there, and I will not. In the craziest twist of fate possible.
I could not believe that. I could not believe that. Can't believe it.
I went to both Atlanta games last year, and Brad wasn't there. And then he comes to Indy, and I'm not there. If you're a Pacers listener, I will not be at either of their back-to-back games this weekend. I'm a groomsman in a wedding, so rehearsal dinner Friday, wedding Saturday. I'll miss both. I have missed Steph 2 years in a row now. Somehow, but Brad will be there. So if you want coverage of Pacers Hawks, you just listen to it.
Come on down,
Brad. You're there, Brad. For people on my feed who want to know more about you and what you do and where to find you, where can they do that?
First of all, one of the nicest things someone's ever said to me was that I am the Tony East of Atlanta. So I'll take that all day long. I am the host of Locked On Hawks. I occasionally write, but mostly host of Locked On Hawks, and then I have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/@BTRowland. That's my Twitter handle as well. But Locked On Hawks, second listen, third listen, whichever one you want to have on the Pacers side of things, I'll take it. But that's where you can find me, Tony. For my folks that don't know your work, I know you're going to be again out of pocket this weekend. But if they want to follow you in the future for the other Pacers games or whatever else is going on, where can they find all of your stuff?
Well, first of all, I can't recommend your work enough, Brad, but I will also say this. I follow Brad for the NBA, and I hate that he covers the Braves because I absolutely hate the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, I tweet less about the Braves than I do about the NBA, but yeah, I do cover the Braves. Apologies, everyone. I'm also very confident there are some Braves fans around you because like they're everywhere, man. They're everywhere.
They are. No matter how good the Phillies are, World Series contender, 50 wins. They always suck against the Braves. This past season was the first time that they actually like performed well against the Atlanta Braves in a season. It feels like in my entire life. It is the most infuriating sports thing. For you Atlanta people, I'm at Tony R. East on every social media. I write about the Pacers and the Fever. So if you're interested in the women's basketball side, good for them. Got an extension towards the still no CBA that I think will take until the last possible second. You can find it all there. This was great, Brad. I always like crossing it over with you.
It's my pleasure, sir. Always happy to do it. I'm excited about the game. It'll be weird, but it'll be fun.
I presume Brad will be back Friday night into Saturday with Pacers Hawks coverage. You 100%. Will hear on the Locked On Pacers feed on Sunday, talking about both weekend games for the Pacers and already recorded with Locked On Bucks, the Miles Turner return game. What do I expect that to feel like? We'll talk a little bit about Miles. If he gets hurt between now and then, you'll never hear that. But anyway, thank you all so much for listening today. We'll both see you very soon.